Hello, everybody. We should be live. It should be working. I hope. Um, it's always funny with the lag as well. Like there's always a delay. Um, and this is feedback and friends. I don't know why that's. Stop it. Anyway, this is feedback and friends on LBC TV. If this is your first time, we've got someone in the chat saying, "Will I get pinged or something?" It's my turn. I will ping people as you come up. Though I would also appreciate that if you can tune in or at least stay listening, that's much appreciated. We have the whole point of this is also to just, it's not just me and my guests and the co-hosts and everyone else giving you feedback. Everyone in the chat needs to give each other feedback too, just for the fun of it, and also because one person's opinion isn't an absolute. It's actually really useful to have a wider range of opinions and feelings and vibes. So yeah, the more people willing to hang out here in the chat, the better, because really keeps everything going. Not sure what happened with that. So I'm going to introduce to you. Oh, there's a really severe lag on there. I don't know why. Yeah. Restream's being weird. Anyway, I'm going to introduce my co-host first. We've got Unity of Noise over here. Would you like to introduce yourself a bit? Because while you have been on the stream a while, it was a while ago. So, give us the rundown. What do you do? Who are you? Where do you live? What's
What's
your
up, guys?
social security number?
Yeah, my social is 1-800 eat me. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm a music producer, songwriter. I own a recording studio. I work with a lot of bands, and I do also a lot of electronic music myself, mostly like drum and bass, mid-tempo type stuff. Super into sound design. Love that kind of whole area of recording and whatever. And I've been a drummer for 25 years. I toured professionally for 17 of those years. And yeah, that's just a bit about me. I'm in Colorado, just so you know.
Thank you very much. And we've also got a special guest, SixSided here. Would you like to tell us everyone a little bit about yourself? I mean, most I know about is you make some really interesting arrangements in your music, and but I don't really know much about you as a person.
Yeah. I'm in Kansas. I'm another central United States person, but I'm a software developer by day and a bedroom producer by every other time. So, my goal, I think, I'm trying to get into some film studios or video game studios, and score some films, score some video games, get my name out there. I would like to use that to either boost my software development career or use my software development career to get into scoring video games and stuff full time. I have a passion for music. I like trying out new things. I also like EDM, and I love listening to music and seeing what other people have to offer. So that's why I'm here. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for that introduction. It's going to be very interesting to hear your perspective on some tracks.
Iggy asked if the bed was usually made, and it is. I'm a proud bed maker. So.
That's certainly more made than mine. Alright, so if everything is working, for some reason my bitrate's gone down. I'm not sure what's happening there. Hopefully the stream is okay for you guys, but I don't know, it's weird. I meant to have faster internet, and yet things always seem to end up just not working the way I want them to. So please, if there's any actual problems, let me know. Looks like Minecraft to you. That's what I'm seeing. It's like 569 kilobits for some freaking reason, and I don't know why. Turn that off, perhaps. Oh, it's just having a severe tantrum. Now it's just dropped. Very sorry about this. Not that it really matters. I wanted it to look good. I made it all shiny to have it actually look nice, and then it just is like, no. It's really, really bizarre. Now the visualizer's dead, which is... But it's still... Oh,
I
we'll
mean, at
see
the
if
end of the
it-
day, as long as the audio's coming through clean, that's really all that matters, right?
Well, I guess so. I get while we see what is happening with this, we've got Jadders up first with Erratic. I can't remember if they had anything they wanted specific feedback and. Oh, stop it! Stop. Things just don't want to work, and I don't know why. All right. Is the transition in the middle part a bit harsh? I also got new headphones and got to get used to them. Is the mix down alright? Hope you enjoy. So this is Erratic by Jadders. Hello, Jadders. Nice to see you in the chat. Next up, we have Nick Bayman. Or Beeman. Anyway, I will tag him in a second as well. Boop. Autoplay. Wah. I forgot to mute. I forgot to mute myself during the thing. So sorry if you heard me typing or whatever. So
We couldn't hear it.
well that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place today, and I still don't know why the bitrate is just decided it's not going above 600. But the interesting song. I agree with a lot of the comments here about the sound design being really, really good, and but I mean, I know the track's called Erratic, but it's hard to when you have the sound design being erratic, having all the melodies seem almost also kind of random can be a bit difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What do you think? How are you feeling about, especially about that middle section? I felt like that personally. There might have been a bit of an energy drop.
Go ahead, buddy. I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I'll start off because you asked about the transition in the middle part and the mix down, but I had a couple other notes randomly that I want to get off first. So I think you did a really good job, and the writing is super solid. And you have a lot of playful elements that kind of dance around, give it a lot of character and a lot of texture. I think that's great. I think you have this main theme that goes on. I'm not good at singing, so I'm not going to sing it, but I think you should try to stick more to that melodic theme because it's present at the start of the track. Yeah, that. That's present at the start of the track, middle of the track, and the end of the track. But the issue with the writing that I have is sometimes you try to get a little bit esoteric with it, and you try to explore different keys, and that breaks the integrity of the melody structure that you've kind of come up with. And it's the reason that doesn't work so well, in my opinion, is because your sound design is also very sporadic. So it's hard to relate to it as a listener once it gets a little bit too off the charts. But enough of the writing. But I think the transition in the middle part, I think you're talking about like where it starts panning back and forth, and it makes a very clear theme shift. In my opinion, it was a little bit jarring, but it was creative and playful, and I'm all for that type of thing. So, I mean, in my opinion, I would keep it, maybe work out the details a little bit more. I'm not too worried about anything that you're experimenting with that's playful, so I like it. Mix down wise, I think everything just sounds really wide. So you get some clashing frequencies, especially in the low mids, and it gets a little bit muddy. And then the real instruments, they sound a little bit like they're recorded in a studio, but and you don't really do anything else to them but just play the raw recording. And sometimes that can get, I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but I think that's part of the reason why it sounds a little bit wide and muddy. You just need a little bit extra post-processing as well. Granted, that's pretty difficult to do on real instruments, but those are my thoughts.
Anything you'd like to feed off that, Uni?
Yeah, so I think SixSided has pretty much covered most of what I would say as well. I'll give you this perspective from somebody who has ADHD, like most of us do in the music industry. A song like that drags our attention in so many different areas so quickly that we don't have time to like focus on one thing and like kind of fall into it and feel like, oh man, I really love this part. Because by the time I fell into a part of that song that I was like, wow, this is really cool, you were already transitioning into something else. And it wasn't a mild transition into like a variation of what we were listening to. You were kind of going completely left turn. Now, at the same time, the oh, my mic is louder than everybody. Woohoo!
Well, I can turn you down a little bit and balance out on my end anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But that being said, my thought process there is if you're going for something experimental, if you're going for something that's super crazy, then you nailed it, So it kind of just depends on like what are you going for as far as your style of writing. If I dive a little bit into your mix and just overall, like I'm a top-down kind of guy when it comes to mixing. So, and by that we mean we listen to all the sounds and we kind of go from this area down, highs to lows. So I listen to drums first, being a drummer. You definitely could tighten up all of that stuff. It felt like the kick was super prominent in parts, and yet like the clap was like buried in the background. So there was things like that I was like, man, if there's a like kind of a trappy type section in the middle, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool part. But then like the snare was super buried, So little things like that. I do agree with SixSided when it comes to like everything just sounded like it was super, super wide, and you weren't really taking care of the space. Like Let's give the bass the middle. Let's give these keys a little bit of wideness. Let's make these orchestral parts really, really wide. Like give everything its own nice, clean space, you know? But I'm just looking at my notes here. Yeah, and then the only other thing I heard with the mix was just cleaning up that like low to low mid range. I would say anywhere between 100 and 500, somewhere in that realm. It just felt like there was a lot of low mid buildup, which is what people refer to as muddiness. So kind of take a look at your mix in that realm and see if you can't clean it up. That's my 2 cents.
Good feedback. Thank you very much, guys. Are you ready to move on?
Mm-hmm.
We've got Nick Beeman here, aka Betula on the SoundClouds. The feedback request is anything goes, please. The explicit lyrics are being revised. Sweat drop face. So, I guess we're gonna get vulgar? I don't know. It's like swearing. Explicit language could mean literally anything. This is Hell Whip by Betula. That was Hell by Betula.
When brake lights twinkle like Christmas.
Darn it, adverts, leave me alone. You're sounding a little bit crunchy again, Unity.
Damn
the
it.
laptop is not very happy. Just a smidge. It's not as bad as it was earlier, but oh well. Some interesting comments here. I'm not you said about the explicit word. I honestly barely noticed the explicit phrasing of any sort. So I'm not sure you should worry about it. You're saying, oh, it's being revised, but I don't know. I think you've nailed the vibe and actually worked really well. There's been some debate in the chat there about the rhythms, so I'm going to hand it off to you guys. And what do you think about the different ARPs and things going on and how they're interacting?
I'm just taking notes.
All right. Yeah, I can go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I'll start. I'll do the rhythm last since that's kind of what everyone's talking about, and I'll segue into a different conversation. But the first thing that stuck out to me is your do vocals. I think they're really heavy and they stick out of the texture and they're dry. In terms, there's other elements of the track that are like that as well. So I wrapped that up in a note, and I'm thinking, I want to say you want to make everything sound like it exists in the same space and make it sound like a performance, especially because there's vocals and you're performing those vocals. So you want everything to sound like it's in the same space, so you don't have stuff sticking out of the texture a bit too much. And there's a lot that goes into that. Maybe everything has the same reverb applied to it, or everything has the same like room acoustics. That could be, how you equalize it or everything. I just think some elements sound like, again, they're recorded in the studio and then you didn't do anything to them after that, and they just stick out of the texture. I really enjoyed the distorted arpeggios and the textures in the second half during kind of the last build up, or the bridge section. I think those were really beautiful, really well done. So back to the rhythm. I guess I didn't really see what people were talking about in the chat, but I think there's some rhythmic dissonance. And if you know what dissonance is, when you have two notes that kind of clash with each other, that's kind of tonal dissonance. Usually you use that as a technique of creating tension, and then you release that tension later. I feel like you can apply the same concept to rhythm. I feel like you have a lot of rhythmic dissonance where you have two rhythms kind of clashing at the same time, but you still need to apply the same, concept of tension and release, where like if you have a lot of rhythms clashing, they need to eventually resolve into a cleaner, a cleaner rhythm, I think. I can't really talk much about the drums and how they're played, but I can talk about how the different elements work together, and that's what I got away with it. Sometimes there's clashing rhythms and they never get resolved. I'm sure Unity can talk more about the drums and those rhythms.
You
as
play
well,
drums, right,
so.
Unity?
Yeah, long time.
Oh, you're so
long
crunchy again.
time.
Do you want
Oh
to try
man, I
reloading?
hate it when I'm crunchy.
Do you
Yeah, I
want
can
to
try reloading
Right,
again.
we're back in a second. Thanks for your patience, everybody. His CPU is crying.
Yeah, this
think
guy
maybe-
said the vocals are a bit too large to fit in one place, and I kind of agree. That's what I'm saying. That everything needs to sound like it fits in the same, spot in existence.
Here I am again.
Yay,
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's better.
I don't know why it does. It's probably, I mean, you guys, none of you know except for actually SixSided knows because I told him earlier, but I live at 10,000 feet on top of a mountain. So I have satellite internet up here, and it doesn't exactly allow me to do a lot of things that the normal public gets to do in cities. So streaming and stuff can be a little bit difficult.
But we appreciate the effort.
Anyway. Dude, I love
to the
doing stuff like
drums.
this. Is like one of my favorite things in the world. Drums perspective, I will say that I didn't see what was going on in the chat. I actually like the drums. I thought that they felt really good as far as just like listening to the song. People are calling me. Listening to the song from just like let's call it a dance floor perspective, right? Something that I could just kind of groove out to. What I missed was I felt, and this is what I think SixSided brought up, I felt like the bass were clashing a little in the low end. There was like, then this would be an easy fix. Go in and figure out what note your kick is playing at and figure out what the root note of your track is and see if they're in the same. Because if you do that, sometimes there's a little bit of, if something's in, A flat or B flat, A sharp, whatever you want to call it, and your bass line is D, right? And the kick can be just clashing notes there. So sometimes a little tiny thing like that will just completely change everything, But overall, I thought the drum sounded good. I would personally like a little more punch in the kick, a little more like, let's call it maybe like 200, 150, a little more like chesty punch in there. But that's just my personal opinion. That's completely up to you because that is all style. That's not really like a bad or a good thing. One thing I do want to add to when it comes to this track is the vocals. I think everybody has been saying something about this, but the vocals felt very, very upfront in the mix. And then immediately when I started paying attention to that, I noticed that all the synths and the arps and stuff you had going in there were also just kind of sitting there fighting for that space. So that's something where you need to work on widening those things out, right? Pull their space out, allow the vocals to sit up front more in the mono space, allow the arps and the synths to push them out a little bit farther. The other thing you can do, and this is an old ass trick, and most people never think about doing stuff like this, send all of your synths into a bus or a group, if you want to say it that way. Put a compressor on there and let your vocals sidechain to that compressor. Okay. So whenever you're singing, it will actually duck the synths down. And I'm talking a little bit. I'm not talking do it to the point where like, an EDM pumping track. I'm talking you just want to just push the synths out of the way a little bit and allows your vocal to like sit up front in the mix. But once you do that, you can actually bring the vocal level down. So in that way, you don't have things that are sitting there literally fighting for the space. Outside of that, vocal tricks that I do, when you want more space and you want your vocals to have a bigger sound, like a big wet sound, put 4 reverbs on it, not on the vocal itself. Put them all on buses, send 4 different reverbs, and do different types of reverb for each one. Make one super long, make one really short. But the idea is to create a cascading sound. And that when the vocal goes through it, it'll create like this huge, like cascading warmth that'll go through everything. And it will actually allow you to kind of get rid of a lot of this vocal up front, super dry, kind of jumping out in your face. It'll bring it into the space that everything else is in. But overall, I mean, sorry, I had one other thing. And there's I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Ed Sheeran documentary. It's called Songwriter, but he wrote Love Yourself, which is a Justin Bieber song. And he originally wrote that song as You Can Go and Fuck Yourself. And the reason why I bring this up is because during the writing of this song, his producer, Benny, I bring this up because you brought up the point of removing that one word. So I bring it up because his producer, Benny, was like, hey, if you say you can go and love yourself instead of fuck yourself, that makes that lyric universal. It doesn't make it harsh and like hatred towards someone. It makes it like a universal situation that you could apply to so many different things. So if you're trying to replace that word where you were saying fucking, then think of it that way. Think of how you could say that line that would make it universal to the whole world. So that's my feedback.
Good feedback. We're going to move on now to Eggy Toast with No Name 18. And if you're watching whoever goes by StringNet, like how, for some reason we've ended up with a couple of people giving their Discord ID numbers, like the account tied number, not their actual alias that they use on Discord. So I can't tag whoever StringNet is because I don't know. I searched StringNet. No clue. If you are watching, then please let me know, and you will be up soon. Next up, otherwise, it's Eggy Toast. No specific feedback for this one, so let's go with No Name 18. If it'll load. a lot of positive words there with lush and dreamy and super chill. That's all good things to hear. Oh no, don't autoplay whatever that is. I don't think we need a Travis Scott track playing on here. Oh no, I got to switch back to the cameras. Alright, we're back, sort of. Still at 600 kilobits.
Nathan, I think
you know.
you should give some feedback. I feel like me and SixSided over here have been taking up all the space.
Well, this is definitely... Well, it's actually a good idea for me to give feedback on this one. This is kind of my territory. It's sort of loosely ambient, almost new agey kind of thing going on. And I agree with some of the comments here about things like the little vocalish bits. It's like they're not quite vocal chops, but they're little what's the word?
One shots, blips.
No. Ad libs.
There you go.
It's like it's ad libs. Sorry, my brain just nope. Yeah, the little audio ad libby things where it's sort of like, they're kind of cute, and I think that if you're gonna bring them out more, at the same time you should get experimental with how you treat them in terms of reverb and delay, and allow to sort of have moments where it just sort of washes out into the space, because you do have a really nice space here, but as chill as it is, there's a moment around the middle where it's not boring, but you kind of already said what you've done. You know, you're repeating yourself a little bit too much. And the way to get around that, if you don't want to change the melodies, and I think the melodies themselves are fine, is to alter your textures slightly. To just really bring out that sense of evolution and depth to the track, because you don't want to do too much melodically, because the more you do, the more hectic or potentially aggressive or something like that. You know, the mood changes, the more intense and crazy the melodic aspects are. Gang Amy saying it reminds them of Savant. Yeah, I can see that. What has happened to Savant? Have they even released anything recently? Because there was a period where they were just like releasing an album every 2 months or something, and all these, you know, massive albums, 25 tracks or whatever. And then I don't know what happened there. I feel like they just went off the map. I think that if you are going to finalize your no name, well, start by giving it a name now. Names matter. Names matter. So, like, No Name 18 means you don't know what you want the track to be. That you don't know what the story it's telling or the place it's actually living in. But, so I think you should... It sounds weird, but I think you should spend some time now thinking about what you want the track to be called, and then refining the direction of that based on that title. Because you have a really solid skeleton here, and some really nice little bell sounds and pads, and the general progression of the track is fine. It's just, yeah, you need to give yourself a sense of direction, and the first place to start is just give it a name. You might change your mind later and tweak it slightly, but once you have that down, it's sort of your mission statement with the song.
I do that same thing. I title tracks the minute that I write them, and not necessarily a song that stays. For instance, I had a song that I just finished mixing yesterday called Neural Mentality, and then I changed the name of the song to Spectral, I think. And it was just because when I save stuff, I I called it Neural Mentality because as a drum and bass song, it felt like I had like a neuro type vibe to it. So that's I just kind of gave it that direction. Is exactly what Nathan is talking about, which I think is very, very good advice. To throw my 2 cents in, this to me felt like it just felt like an early producer's track, and I mean that in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. When I look back at like when I first started producing and I first started writing songs, especially just electronic music, where you can just zone out sometimes. You'll have headphones on or you're whatever, sitting in front of speakers, doesn't matter. But you just kind of zone out on what you're doing, and those little bits of creativeness just kind of start flowing at you. Lead happen here, or this little vocal blip happen there, and I think it's really, really awesome. So I think, in my opinion, like you have a really good direction here. I think you just need to kind of like hone it and develop it a little bit more, you know? But yeah, so I mean that in a good way. Like as an early producer's track, I just mean that like, again, like you were just kind of zoning out on it and enjoying what you were making in the moment. So keep going. I think you should just develop it more. I think it'll come along.
Completely agree with what you said. Yeah. My note, or my biggest takeaway was I feel like you just need some space for the track to evolve over time, because I think if I recall correctly, it sounded like you repeated something twice. Then the second time could always evolve. I really enjoyed the atmosphere. The float there, I noticed some little floating leads, stuff that would kind of rise up and then flutter out, and then there's little details like that made me happy. I'm a very heavy detail guy when it comes to music. I did notice one mixing thing. You had a kick and a sub, and they were kind of clashing a little bit. So I think same advice from the last piece that Unity gave. Just check the frequencies, make sure that both the kick and the sub have their own space, so they don't interact too much. Besides that, I really enjoyed it. Agree with what the other two said. So,
Thank you very much for your feedback. That was a good way to kill 50 seconds of adverts. 50 seconds? Like, really? SoundCloud's taking the piss.
I love their model though. When it comes to payouts for artists, their model is destroying all other models out there. But that's a conversation for another time.
Well, in tangential stuff, we do have plans, me and Isha, to do some interesting content coming up while I'm at hers. Maybe it'd be also just worth doing a casual phone-in discussion about the state of the music industry in 2024. If you'd be willing to join in for that. I don't know what everyone's holidays plans are. But yeah, I'm going to be in Denmark. It's going to be fun.
You lucky bastard.
But apparently I'm just always keen on spending all my money. I will ask you guys about your holiday plans after we've listened to Midnight Massacre by Artacne. No, don't autoplay. Bad.
Can I just say holy shit? Can I just say holy shit? Like,
it's so hardcore that it's broken your computer again. You're crunchy again. That's how hardcore it was.
what the?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to sit down some point and see if we can suss that out. SixSided.
That was wild.
Well, I mean, he's refreshing again.
I'm just shaking my head no, because you were note spamming these kick drums everywhere, and then you go into the most beautiful writing of this string section and piano, and it's like, what did this come from? This is wild. I loved it. I think, and then I feel like part of it had some real like interesting issues going on, and then other parts of it sounded just completely professional, and my mind is a little bit blown by how crazy this was. I enjoyed it.
It's really
the first thing I wrote
with it, isn't it?
I have a lot of notes. I'll go through them as quick as I can. I wrote good piano motif in the beginning because it quotes some common themes, so it's relatable to me as a listener. And then all the piano and strings, I think you did a great writing job there. So I think the sub is really loud, and this leads into another issue. Someone said the kick feels weak, and I think the cause of that is that the sub is too loud for the kick. I might be wrong, but...
Or they're just not separated enough.
Yeah, that too. So, because I thought the kick fit the drum and bass style pretty well when you were in the drum and bass section, but it wasn't cutting through enough, I guess. I wrote down note spamming is not my favorite way to create energy in music. Like when you're just, but I feel like it is worth taking a deep dive into what really makes music energetic, and having a more true understanding of how to leverage, different musical techniques to create energy so you can avoid note spamming. Because I don't want to be like harsh or anything, but that section of the song where it's just a bunch of kick drums in a row, I was not enjoying that as much, and it was hard for me to stay musically engaged in that. But
I've been thinking about the tone of the track. I think that given the duality of it, you got this really sort of slightly edgy dark, and then you got this really whimsical thing. It lends it a theatrical quality, like a musical. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing where you can have a tone switch on the spin of a dime as they look to the camera away from the character of the story and go, but they don't know I'm evil, do they?
I have an analogy for what this song did to me, and I'm very much so going to date myself right now, okay? Obviously, you guys all know that I'm older because I mentioned that I toured for a long time and I played drums for fucking ever, so you know that I'm older. But I'm going to date myself right now by saying, and this is exactly what my note says, so crazy. I feel like I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog right now. There was an intro. All of a sudden, I got to a boss fight, and everything just went dark and crazy. And now I'm running through stage 2 trying to survive. That was that song to me in a nutshell. I was like, what the hell is going... It was just one thing after the next. I was like, whoa. I mean, but I thought it was cool, though. Like, I actually didn't hate it, Like, I was like, man, this is fun. But it legitimately felt like you wrote parts for a video game, and you just happened to stick them all in one single song instead of having them play out when you were like in that section of the game. You know what I mean? Like you just like stuck them all into one area, which I was like, this is awesome. So I do have some notes. Okay, so let me go through because they already covered a bunch of the stuff. So earlier you have this kick distortion that comes through, which I thought sounded really cool, but it felt very mono. And I was like, man, if he wants to make this bigger, go find yourself a dark horn snap that's in that same key as that kick drum, right? And put it super, super wide. Right where that kick drum hits, have those huge horn snaps go blah, like fog horns left and right. Like,
that's like
it will be
Trap
huge.
Does that a lot sometimes, doesn't it?
Oh, it's drum and bass, trap, dubstep. All those guys are big into those big, giant, like fog horn sounds, Yeah, so then I said when the big lead comes in, now I'm a punk drummer, okay? 205 to 230 beats per minute is my jam. That's where I typically play at. When you get into that section where there was like the super fast drums, you had all the kick drums added in, you kind of had all the parts going on, that just got too chaotic. It was really hard to concentrate on what am I supposed to be listening to right now. I said in the notes, either A, simplify the sounds that you have going on, be outside of the drums, or B, just go straight happy hardcore, get rid of everything except for the kick drum, especially that distorted one, and just make it go burr, 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 burr. I think it would have had a better punch, you know? Yeah, so everything outside of that, I think these guys already covered, but that's like my whole take. I thought it was fun, though. I'll give you that. Like, I really thought it was fun. It was just chaotic.
It was fun. That was awesome.
Very much an inspired track, I think. Like, there's a lot of care and emotion going into actually writing the damn thing, and I can really respect that. Even if it's not necessarily a genre I spend a lot of time in, like, you can tell when the effort is being made to make it interesting and unique.
Yeah, 100%.
Love it.
Next up, we have StringNet, aka in the chat there, Adu. Thank you for confirming that. Next time, also, people, if you're sending us your Discord or your Twitch IDs, make sure it's the name that you have on Discord, especially on our server, because the numbers we can't do anything with. It's not the ID number, it's your alias, your @. So it makes things a little bit easier to ping people when they're actually on, but I'm glad we got to the bottom of this so we can play you StringNet. He's looking for general feedback, like the structure, mixing, etc. So I guess all thoughts are welcome. This is Pond by StringNet. Hopefully I don't get an advert from SoundCloud. I really did still drum and bass track here?
Well, first of all, I like it. I just would throw that out there. I had to put my my mixing headphones on because I really wanted to listen to the sub a little bit more. I don't know if you guys noticed, I switched to my crazy fucking headphones here. I can't wear these for a long time. They're very heavy, but they're really good for listening to low end. So I really like the intro. I put down that has like a really cool music box kind of vibe to it. It felt like I literally like opened a music box and it was like playing something. It just felt really cool. I think there's a consensus in the chat going that it feels a little repetitive. And the only reason why, in my opinion, is that you get, 8 bars, 16 bars in, and then you'll just kind of repeat that again. So even if you literally just, if you're 8 bars, 16 bars in or whatever, and you just add a hi-hat or add some sort of additional element, it could be very, very tiny, but it just keeps people's attention rolling. The that like long bassy horn stab you've got going on, soak that thing in a reverb send. I highly recommend Native Instruments RAUM, RAUM. That thing is incredible for making.
Are they still giving away?
It's insane. I don't know if they are. Get it. If they're giving away ROM for free and you don't have that reverb, go to Native Instruments and get it like now. That thing is insane. It's amazing. So on those parts, soak that. Even if you do ascend and you literally automate it to go up, but make that thing just like create like all of a sudden it's just crazy reverb space. It'll sound really cool. Outside of that, you definitely can add more sub. Kick sub relationship is really, really great. It sounds really good. I don't agree with a couple people saying that the kick needs more top end. It definitely feels plenty clicky to me. You don't need to go there. That's my opinion, of course. But the sub, I actually felt like you could get away with more. Not like a crap ton, but you could definitely push that sub in there more. And then outside of that, the only thing I would love to hear is a little bit more variations as you're listening to the track in the drums. So when you get to those parts that are going to change, or you just want to add a little variation, create a glitchy part of the drums, create a fill, do anything like that. But overall, like I mean, I thought the track was really, really great. It was a great direction. I definitely think it's awesome.
I really enjoyed it too. SixSided, do you have any additional thoughts, or do you want me to say
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I'll start off with the only criticism I wrote down was the horn takes up a lot of frequency space, and you can actually hear it drowning out other elements of the track. We already talked about mixing that though, but I heard that. Maybe take a little bit of a look at that. Some praises, some things I think you did really well. You did a nice job taking the piano off the grid at the start. It gives it a little bit of character, and then when you're doing a little glissando on the piano, the separated transients of the piano clicks or piano presses give it a lot of texture to the track, which I really enjoyed. And then when you made the switch up to the string instrument, the harp or guitar, or the combination of those two, that was beautiful. I really enjoyed that. And the chord change as well was really good. So that's all I got.
I think for me, the only thing I'd really work on is slicing up the drums some more, like, or finding other compatible samples with interesting fills. Because there's nothing wrong with sampling, especially drum and bass, which thrives on sampling. Like everyone uses them and breaks and whatnot. So but yeah, that's kind of where because the melodic stuff, it's nice, but drum and bass, like, it is just driven by the relationship between the drum and bass. The melodic stuff is window dressing, and it always will be, I think, because it's just the nature of the genre.
Yeah.
So if you can just find interesting points where you can just sort of overthrow our expectations of your drum patterns, that would keep the energy and momentum going enough, I think, to make everything else not so samey. Like,
if I can toss in a suggestion, and this literally goes for all genres, okay? This is not a drum and bass focused thing. A quick way to do stuff like that: take your drum bus. Hopefully you have everything going to a drum bus, right? Bounce down that beat. Literally bounce it to a separate track, and you don't have to use it like that. But what you can do once you bounce that to a separate track is you can start using plugins to glitch it out, or you can cut it up and chop it up and move it around. So when those breakpoints come in, you can just use your own drums, chopped up, glitched up, let's use the bad words, fucked up. It doesn't matter. But you can do all that and create those little variations that Nathan was just talking about very simply. So just take your whole drum channel, bounce it all down so it's all one track, chop it up, mess it up, and put it in those places where you think that you need a little bit of variation.
Great advice. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Misfit. Apparently this is for a remix competition. I'm not really sure how well this is going to play. Normally we don't do remixes, but I guess everybody gets at least one at this point. It's like Spider-Man.
You played one of mine.
Yeah, like... There's always, I don't know. We'll risk it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It might be muted in the VOD. I don't know. So please go. This is a reminder. Go to our YouTube and subscribe if you want to see our recordings. It's at ILBC TV on YouTube as well. And literally the majority of our streams are all there in one place. It's quite good. But we do have some interesting stuff planned, and every little helps in terms of support. Also, tell your friends. If you have friends that make music, or even if you have friends who are just fans of music, they could be finding our next independent upcoming artist here that they actually really like. And, community is important. We all need to work together. And, Sunny, I've closed the queue for the minute, so you might get in at the end, but we've been on we've still got a good chunk of the queue. So I will maybe reopen it later. We'll see how it goes. Next up, so we got to be brutally harsh, brutally honest was the request for this one. So,
easy.
Best roasting, guys. Let's go.
Find me on the grand escape. Find me on the grand escape. Steal, cheat, beg and borrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll settle down. I just need to feel something.
That ticking clock was an interesting choice. Um,
Very
I wonder
interesting.
why it didn't come in earlier. Because it's like, well, you think. Let's think about what clocks thematically represent. Obviously, it's passing of time, but also it's the deadline. You know, it's like you have something coming that you can't run away from. It's omnipresent. Like, you know, it could be death. It could be admitting to somebody that you love them, or you've only got a limited amount of time to do something important. And the original song was being Grand Escape. Like, the ticking clock makes me feel like, at the end, makes me feel like maybe the escape is actually impossible. And that's an interesting thematic element. And the fact that it's only at the end, it's sort of like, maybe you need to seed it more and use it in interesting ways. Like, it could even be points where it just replaces your snare, like a rim shot instead, is your clock ticking. I'm pretty sure that's kind of how people like Zed are really using it, is that with the ticking clock instead. That's why he likes that one. But he did say to be harsh, so I'm actually struggling, because overall it sounded really good. So, Unity, can you roast this or not? What are you thinking?
Okay, let me stretch my arms out here a bit. Great intro, first of all. We'll start with the positive roasting. The vibe overall of this track I thought was really, really awesome. I know you said it was a remix, so the vocals and everything, whoever that was, I gotta hunt them down, because I want to see if I can get them to... Oh, Crunch City on the mic again? Fuck me.
Yeah, sorry. But,
How about this? SixSided, you go. I'll restart my thing again.
Okay.
bye!
I'll also start with the positive roasting. I feel like I have a really conceptual piece of feedback here, and I hope you understand what I'm trying to get at. But first of all, beautiful chords, and I can get lost in these harmonies pretty well. So I think the structure and the growl sounds and the drop actually lower the quality of the track as a whole, and the story that it tells. And I don't mean that in like a mean way, but I think this is where the conceptual thing comes in. Is I think your introduction presents like a huge degree of delicacy with your harmonies, and everything is very deliberate in how notes resolve and where you arrange instruments, and how the composition is. And then you breach this expectation with the sound design and the drop. I think everything sounds a little bit less deliberate, and you're very aggressive and upfront with everything. And maybe this is a good, artistic contrast. I don't know. I felt this way, that you set up an expectation of delicacy, and then you breached it, and you got rid of, what made this track beautiful in the first place. So I'm personally someone who wants to get lost in harmonies and the delicate moments. And I can't help but want more delicacy out of the drop. But that's my conceptual piece of feedback, and I feel like maybe this doesn't need to be fixed in this specific track, but this is something that you can think of in future productions, is what you set up as expectations and how you can evolve these expectations instead of breaking them down. But overall, beautiful track. It deserves praise as well as the roast I gave it. So that's what I got.
Did my crunch go away? Am I not crunchy anymore?
You're good.
No, you're squishy.
I don't know.
You're squishy now. Is that the opposite of crunchy? Squishy? Jelly?
Yeah. Okay, so
Soft?
I got a few notes here. I really love the intro too. I will bring up a sonic point. The guitars and the piano sounded really, really good, but there is a low mid build up there, so you kind of need to decide which. And if it was me, it would be piano. But if you kind of need to decide like which one of those is gonna kind of hammer down on that low mid area, and just take a little bit out of the other one, like just allow one of those to occupy that space a little more than the other one does, because there was a little bit of honkiness happening in there. I wasn't a fan of the kick in the intro, in my opinion. I didn't really like it. It felt a little light. Not that it needs to be like super crazy heavy, but it didn't feel really like a kick. It felt like it had all the attack on the top end, but it was missing a little bit of low end. Not that it needs to be big and huge, but just a little bit of thump in there to give me some sort of like, oh yeah, like this, like something's coming right now. Like there's a feel here. Okay. I'm going to go with SixSided on the fact that buildup was epic. The vocals were great. The synths were great. Everything happened. And then when it dropped, you lost me completely. The main thing was that big, heavy, like, and that thing was so up front and just right in your face. It kind of just pushed me away from the song. I was like, oh my God. But in my opinion, and I wrote this down, man, if you actually had kind of dropped back a lot of those more dubstep sounds and brought that big synthy sound that you had going with the huge sidechain on it forward, you would really keep the vibe of that buildup, and it would have been very like pleasing. I would have been like, boom, this is a hit. Like if this doesn't at least place in this remix contest, those people are crazy and they need to go do something else. But it felt like a lot of those dubstep elements were just so harsh and just like so like mean and nasty that they just kind of like ruined the big, beautiful, ethereal type of buildup that you had going on there. Like you set it up really, really well. You really did. So if we are going to stick with that sound, I have a couple of notes. The dubstep sounds, back them up a little bit and get them all into the same space. They all just felt very separated. Something was in your face 1 second, another thing was super wide and reverby the next second. It just felt kind of all over the place. We need to collect them like a drum set. You know what I mean? The cymbals, the snare, the toms, everything belongs together. And in dubstep, drum and bass, a lot of these very glitchy type elements, these crazy elements, we have to also create them to sound like they are generated from the same area. Okay. Overall, the whole track I felt had a bit of low mid buildup. If you haven't looked into it yet, look into that, low mids 250, 200 to 500 realm, just kind of look into that. If you don't have anything going on, a parallel bus for the drums, I highly suggest adding some parallel processing to the drums, meaning send your drums to a bus, compress the living shit out of them so they're snappy as hell, and work them into the mix a little bit. And then overall, I just wanted to make a positive note that I felt your kick and sub had actually a really good relationship there, and I felt like the low end itself actually had a pretty damn good relationship. So definitely on point on that. So there's my positive, really harsh, and then positive feedback for you.
Good. I think that was well-rounded feedback with no roasting, just useful stuff. So thank you for that. We can take a moment since I talked about my holiday plans. What are you two doing this holiday?
What are you doing in Kansas out there? What you doing? Kansas.
I'm spending time with my family and taking PTO. Let's go.
What is PTO?
Paid time off because I'm salaried.
Oh, nice. I'm old and I don't do good with acronyms. I just am not good there. It just doesn't work for me.
Nope. All good.
I am hanging out right here. My wife's birthday is Christmas Eve. So we tend to, we'll go snowboarding. She's a heavy snowboarder. She rides like 50, 60 days out of the year. So we'll tend to go snowboarding or, like go somewhere like Steamboat or whatever, like somewhere in Colorado, which is where I'm at, and hang out and have some fun. I just got a new audio snake for my live room. So I'm going to be recording some drums with my band probably in the next 2 weeks, doing some demos for a new record next year. So that's going to be my whole holiday. It's going to be recording and snowboarding. That'll be the end of it.
Sounds really good.
Yeah,
I'm going to be focused
better than my microphone.
I'm going to be focusing on video stuff, I think. Even like mobile recording. I recently bought this little Rode video mic USB-C thingy.
Nice.
So that'll work. And then I broke my Xperia's cameras by dropping it, so that was clever. But I switched iPhones, so I'm going to use that probably while I'm traveling, and I can just go bloop, and it loads up, and it's got like a headphone jack on the back of it and stuff. So, yes, We love
That's
little
awesome.
accessories, and it comes with a little hat. I don't know whether you've seen these, but like, where is it? I've chucked it somewhere. So isn't it cute? It's like this little.
Aw, well, that's great though for all the like
It's-
wind noise and all the extra shit.
Oh yeah.
So I can actually do outside stuff like that, and I've got a lav mic as well, so lots to experiment with.
Right.
Um,
I do stream a couple days a week for those of you guys interested in watching somebody do music production. I'm not one of those guys that like plays guitar and sing because I don't sing. I can play guitar, but I don't sing. Let me tell you. But I do stream music production, and I always encourage people to come in and talk to me about what I'm doing, ask questions. I'm happy to explain things. I do have a lot of knowledge when it comes to mixing and mastering and working in music production. I mainly work in Logic these days, but I'm proficient in Ableton, Pro Tools, FL Studio. Logic is kind of my thing that I fell in love with that piece of software in the last like 5 years. So that's the one I stick with now. But on Twitch, Unity of Noise, you can find me right now if you want.
I just
And
followed.
tune in
Yes.
next time.
go follow him.
You stream?
Me.
I do
Six-
not.
Oh, okay.
I streamed Counter-Strike before, but that's about it.
Nice.
Maybe you should get back into it again. Mwahaha.
Maybe.
Wahaha.
It eats time.
I would actually love to see you working on some of your like scoring stuff that you're trying to get into. Like I love that world too, like video game stuff. Like everyone thinks that my drum and bass, like I am on a Discord server for drum and bass, and all of those guys on there call my drum and bass video game drum and bass because they all think it's like video game vibe to it. Like I don't know. I just write what I'm feeling. I don't really go for a specific sound. You know.
I think that's a common outcome. When you write what you're feeling, you get, a lot of people saying that sounds like a video game. I don't know why,
Right.
but it's just telling a story.
Whatever. I'm okay with it. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's a compliment in my view.
Yep.
So, let's go with thank you, Chef. I'd like feedback on the drums, the mix, the second part in the song in particular, where I tried to get creative and jungly. There's a lot of drum and bassy sort of high tempo stuff tonight, so that's fine. STL Master.
That's because I'm
thank you,
here.
Chef.
I'm bringing the DNB vibes.
Yes.
Don't need no problems, no, don't need no pain. I came for one thing, so don't get in my way. Never give up now, never give up now. Hold on to hope. Never give up now, never give up now. Hold on to hope. Yeah. What?
Yeah,
Drop it.
bounce.
You. Bye. Don't need no problems, no, don't need no pain. I came for one thing, so don't get in my way. Never give up now, never give up now. Hold on to hope. Never give up now, never give up now. Hold on.
Big up on the jungle selector.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Okay. I don't know. It said a jungly, but it actually felt more like footwork than jungle to me. Does that sound accurate to you guys?
I could get the jungle vibe in there. I mean, it felt jungle jump up kind of mixed together to me.
Yeah.
I could feel all of the vibes, I guess. it was just kind of its own thing, I think.
Yeah, I think that's no bad thing. Certainly no bad thing.
Yeah. It's definitely playful, and I don't think it was meant to be taken too seriously, which is awesome. I like that type of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't feel like there was anything that as far as let's go with the feel of the song. I have mixed notes, of course, but I didn't feel like there was anything in the song that feel wise that made me go, oh, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? Like I felt like it kind of felt a little bit more original to me. Like I had a jungle vibe to it, but then like it has some jump up vibe to it too. So I was like, that's pretty cool, actually. Like I don't hear a lot of people mixing these two together. And to me, that's what people need to be doing. People need to stop following what everyone else is doing and do shit that's original to you. Enjoy it. This is what music is about. Creativity.
Real.
So my mix notes, you wanted us to talk about drums. Okay. I 100% understand why. The question would be, are you running a parallel bus for those drums? Because you definitely are lacking, especially when it comes to drum and bass, jungle, jump up, all that stuff. You're lacking the punch of the drums. Like they need to be that thing that's just kind of like pounding you in the chest the whole time. And like Nathan had said before, like a lot of those other sounds are the color, but it's the drums. Sorry, actually commenting. Okay, so don't know what parallel compression is. Let's talk parallel compression for 2 minutes, okay? What you're doing is you're taking your drums. What's that, Nathan?
I need a GIF for that.
Oh,
You know.
right.
I'm going to head to the restroom while you talk about that really quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what parallel processing is on drums, okay? What you're going to do, and you can look this up all over the internet. There's quite a few different ways to do it. Parallel processing, New York compression, a couple different things out there. But anyway, what you're going for is you're going to take your drums. They're all going to go to a single drum bus, okay? You've got this drum bus sitting here. Now, what you want to do is you want to use a send on that drum bus and send it to all of the drums together. Send them to a separate bus. Now, on that separate bus, you're going to put a compressor on there, and you are going to smash the living shit out of that signal. And I can't stress that enough. Look this up on YouTube. You'll find a whole bunch of videos that'll walk you through it step by step. But then what you do is you take that signal completely out, and as the drums are playing, just slowly mix it in. And what if you do this with all the elements in your song playing at the same time, suddenly you'll hear your drums start to like stand up a little bit more. It's like they're there, we're there, and then it's like, hey, what's up? I'm the drummer and I'm fucking here. Like they just like stand up in the mix. It'll help you add punch. It'll help you add a little bit of more clarity in there. There's a lot of things you could do in that realm. Not just saying that though, I would also be looking at your drums first. Okay, so like I was lacking punch in that kick. I was lacking that 100 realm, and I went up by 100. I mean 100 hertz. That chest punchy, like just punch. Snares, that chest punchy comes around 200 hertz, and I was just lacking some of that. Yes, New York drums is definitely good for studio record. That's I do a lot of studio recording drums, so I do a lot with New York compression. But anyway, that's where your drums. I felt like all the other sounds were pretty great. Again, with trying to get all of them to sit in the same space. That's a big thing with drum and bass, dubstep, all these sounds, bringing in all these different elements, trying to hone them into the same space. But I think if you literally left the track the way it was, got some parallel compression going on in there, and just brought those drums up into the mix, I think this track would take on a dynamic that you would feel has been lacking this whole time. and I'm talking to the chat, which is really hilarious. I didn't realize I'm sitting here literally talking to the chat room. Well, at least you can say that I'm talking to you, technically, right?
Well, it's all important. And where does the name New York compression even come from? Like, I've obviously, you know, I'm familiar with the term, but I never bothered looking at the etymology of it. It's a weird one.
I've actually never known, to be honest with you. I just think that it was a certain type of parallel compression that was developed by somebody or some dudes in New York, and it became popular. That would be my uneducated guess, right? I've never actually known where the hell it came from.
It's a literal thing of, like, you know, the skyline of New York goes boo doo 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 doo.
Right. I have no idea. I do know this though. A lot of guys that do like New York compression, like, well, let's say when I'm actually going for New York compression, I've just got done tracking drums, right? And I'm going to push a song for New York compression. What I'm doing with that is aside from the rooms, I'm taking the other 12 microphones that I have and I'm trying to squash all of them at the same time. And I'm trying to create this, like, this bigger, massive space without using the room microphones to mix into my drums, right? Versus with parallel, I'm actually more focusing on like the kicks, snares, and the toms to get them to just have that extra little like punchy attack. So they'll just like stand up in the mix a little bit more. That's my like weird definition of New York compression, but I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea where the actual term came from.
Maybe I'll have to look it up.
I like my compression LA style. Is it CLA style? Are you a Chris Lord Algae fan?
Oh, that's funny.
He does a lot of shit with parallel compression on everything. That's the other thing, guys. You should also know that parallel compression is not just for drums. So many people think parallel compression, the first thing they think of is drums. Dude, parallel compression on vocals, it's over. Game changer, mic drop. You have no idea. Parallel compression on guitars. I mean, you could do there's producers out there that literally run a parallel bus for every single thing in the mix except for drums and vocals. They literally run everything else in the mix to a separate bus, and they'll push that up as parallel compression for the overall track, which is also a super interesting trick. Andrew Sheps, he does that a lot. He's a guy to look up for that.
I do it.
Hey, that guy does it.
I also do it with reverb, parallel reverb, big thing.
Yep.
You could parallel anything, and it gives you just a lot finer control over what you're doing.
It's funny because I feel like it's such an art to music production in today's day and age. The rules are gone. They are gone. When we were working with mixing boards, we had what was in front of us. We had what we could patch into. We only had like the things that we were physically able to grab. Now all this shit is in digital form I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, you and never in your life could own the amount of compressors that I put on my tracks. Never. It would cost hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of freaking dollars. It would be insane. You know, so like the rules are out the window. If you want to parallel compress your whole damn track, go for it. Try it. The rules are gone. Enjoy that shit.
Good advice. Next up, we have Ikitali, aka Defective on the Discord. They're looking for just general production feedback, so anything goes. It's Liquid Portal.
Hate ads. Want to listen to
Hate ads. Yes, we all hate ads. Oh, you're so crunchy again, Unity.
Ah.
Alright, for me, I thought that was a really interesting vibe. It started out really saturated, and I'm not sure that that works for the context of the track, for the intro. It might be interesting to use that texture later, because you start, like, the actual track composition itself is so smooth that having it sort of distorted and a little bit gritty, like, well, it's an interesting tone, but your intro sets the pace for everything else, and I feel like that doesn't quite do the trick based on what you're actually doing here. Like, maybe you use those effects for a bridge or something, a breakdown, where you can just focus on the distortion and having it either ramp up or fade itself out in an interesting manner. That's kind of where I'm at, because, like, I think the sound design is overall really good. It's just, I want more. I want more than just 1 minute and 29 seconds of song.
Yeah.
Unity, what's your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I basically had the same. So I thought that your overall mix was good. I thought the track sounded really well. But the track changed too fast for me. I was like, just when I would start to vibe out on something, it was like changing into something else. I was like, oh man, I like that part. And so, like, literally go through and just try to make the track 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. I mean, don't get me wrong, this doubling the size of your song right now. So, it's a thing. But like, give us a little bit more of all of those parts. Like, it has such a good vibe, and it was chill, and it was fun, it was atmospheric. Like, I would tell you, my wife love that song. She would absolutely loves that kind of shit, and she would love that song. But it just was changing way too fast. Gotta get rid of the what do I call it? Get rid of the Instagram attention span and go back to a Facebook attention span. How about that?
That's quite funny. I like that.
So, music is not short form content. Stop it.
No.
I thought it was interesting how you had towards, I think, the end of the middle, I guess, you switched up the rhythm, I think 4 times in a row, all within like 16 bars or all within 32 bars or something. And I thought that was pretty cool, but also just, bouncing off what everyone else is saying, you got to give room for those things to kind of breathe. You have some, intricacies within your rhythm and these textures and elements in your track, and the listener doesn't really have time to explore those as much as you may have when you were producing this. So you obviously have a better idea of what type of art you're trying to make and what you're going for, and you want to convey that to your listeners. And when we don't have time to really take a deep dive and explore that when we're listening, it's hard to connect with what you're trying to make. For me, that's personally why the minute 29 is an issue for me. And that's also why I thought the rhythm switch ups were, interesting, but also like that's a section of the song that you could easily make longer. So my 2 cents.
I think it's about immersion. That's the kind of the key word here is to build that sense of immersion and actually give us a chance to live in your world.
Yeah, I said before, like, the simple thing was like with the intro, I was like, oh wow, I really like this intro. And then the minute I was actually able to, let's say, ingest what I was listening to, like, it just switched all of a sudden. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, what happened to that part? So it's literally is about immersion, about allowing us to vibe out to this thing before you take it away from us, Don't
take it away from me. Sorry, I had to be. I know I'm weird, but that's fine.
We like weird, Nathan.
Well, you'll see plenty of weird me over the next couple months, I expect. Any more comments before we move on to Bonehead, aka Bone FM?
I think we're good.
The comment here is, I don't know why I made this lol. Mix is super loose right now. Drop track titles, please, by Bone FM. That was kind of trippy.
That was so good. I love that.
So, any other thoughts other than you love that, or is it just flawless?
No,
What is your thinking?
I'll say the rhythm at the start. I think that set the expectations very perfectly in the intro. My criticism of that is just be careful when you put reverb on like little clicky things. But that's a very like small nitpicky thing, and I don't think it was really an issue in this track. That's something to just always keep an eye out. This brought me into a very almost like a liminal space, or like I don't know how else to describe it. It really transported me somewhere, and I could really tell that when you were creating this, you were just kind of. This is a dumb way to put it, but I feel like you were just kind of vibing out, and then I could totally just feel exactly what you were feeling when you were making this and when you were trying to go for it. And I think as art, this is a successful piece of art, and I feel like this is something that might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I mean, I feel like all these elements were put together very well, and I'm totally able to capture the feeling that you were going after, or you made me feel a specific feeling like very clearly. And I don't really have too much mixed feedback. I think some people in the chat were saying some things sound a little bit out of place, and I could see that, and I agree. So maybe I don't know exactly what the cause of that would be. I think someone said it sounds a little dry, which when you hear things that sound a little dry, I think that's an indicator that you need to spend a little bit more time trying to fit everything into the same space, like I've said before. Making sure stuff doesn't exist, exclusive to other things in the track, if that makes sense. You want things to blend together in a way. But
Yeah, that makes sense. Unique voice.
I like it, so sorry.
No, you're fine. Any additional commentary?
So I've got a couple things. I was looking for the drums to give me a little more direction. Now, that being said, I also kind of looked at it as like, well, if he's going for something a little more cinematic and a little more just kind of like out there, then I can completely get that vibe too. But I kept having a hard time kind of locking into something because and this is just me being a drummer. Like I always want to like kind of lock into something and then be able to appreciate everything else that's going around that. But again, like that's not stylistically what you're going for, then it also makes sense, As far as stuff standing out to me, the sound that you had, the lead sound at the beginning, it just really sounded a bit out of place to me. And it may be that it was just a little too forward in the mix, but I'm not sure. It sounded a little out of place for all of the like darker, like more cinematic vibes that you had going on with the guitars and the more like ethereal sounds in the background. So maybe something to look at. I've seen you comment a couple times where I feel like you've talked about things sounding bright to you, or not bright enough to you. I actually think you may want to look at what you're listening on, because that track sounded really bright to me. Like the overall mix just sounded really bright to me. So I think maybe what you're listening on might be rolled off a little bit. It may be a little bit dark, which means you're overcompensating on high end. And this is coming from somebody who pretty much doesn't hear much over 8K, because I've been playing drums my whole fucking life. So if something sounds bright to me, like I'm telling you that it's got to be pretty damn bright. But then the only other criticism that I had overall was that the bass that came in, I personally think it would sound cool if you actually rolled off a little bit of that top end and gave it a little more bump on the sub. Give it more of a darker, I don't know, call it like 90s rock kind of feel, not Korn. I'm not talking about Korn. Let's just get them out of the thing because that was all low and top. But just roll off the top end a little bit. Get rid of maybe like above 8K, kind of roll that off and give it more low end and see if that kind of makes it like just sit a little heavier and a little bit bigger and darker in the mix. But overall, I thought it was cool. I was vibing out to it in general.
Yeah, I think that's about where I'm feeling as well, and I agree about the listening environment thing. And for high end, my cheat here sometimes is to go listen to it on my phone, because if the high end is really exaggerated, it'll distort, because phone speakers are tiny and they don't actually produce super high end very well, or bass always all that particularly well.
Car test, huge.
Car test, huge.
Car test is a good one as well. I don't own a car or drive, so the best I have is a sound bar sitting in the corner of my room up there.
I literally, so I have These headphones, I have my actual mixing headphones. I literally have my garage. I wouldn't even go anywhere. I would just go sit in my Jeep and listen on my horrible Jeep speakers because they sound like shit. But if I could get something to sound good in there, it speaks volumes. So I definitely go that route. You know, most people don't know, but those little white speakers are called NS10s that everybody had back in the day in the big recording studios, a big mixing board. You always see those white speakers on those. Those things didn't sound good. Everybody thinks that they were like the best sounding speakers. They sounded like shit. And the thing was they were so predominant in the mid range that if you could get something to sound good on a pair of NS10s, it would literally translate everywhere else. So remember that just because you have the best speakers doesn't mean you're going to get the best sound. You want something that translates from a phone to your car to your audio to a stream when it's streaming at 128 kbps, which is fucking shit when we all know it. Getting
in
vulgar.
Interesting monitor news. Rode, the same company that made this USB microphone I got recently, bought Mackie of all people.
Oh, fun.
Apparently
the entire industry is being swallowed up by other industries.
Yeah, well, in this case, apparently the pitch is content creation people rather than music people. They're trying to have a portfolio that covers all bases. So good speakers, good microphones, good recording camera nonsense.
I'll tell you the best piece of advice I got circa 2002. I was recording an album with a producer named Ryan Green, a very, very famous punk rock producer. He did pretty much every 90s punk rock album you could think of, from NoFX to, whoever else. Anyway, he told me one day, we were in the studios, best piece of advice, I'll never forget it. He always said to me, Jim, it does not matter the speakers that you're mixing on. It matters how well you know those speakers. So if you've been mixing on the same set of 6-inch horrible crap speakers for 10 years, but you listen to music on them, you stream YouTube on them, you do everything on them, then you know what those speakers should sound like. So you know that you should be able to get your mix to sound the way that those things sound on those speakers. And that's just a huge piece of advice I'll never forget. That's why I have the Rockets. A lot of people hate on these damn speakers, and
for sure.
I've always mixed really well on them, so I just kept them. I've had them for 15 years now. One of my buddies, side note, one of my buddies actually helped develop these original Rockets, the version 1s that they made. So that's how I found out about them 15 years ago or whatever it was.
Small world. Where you know people in all over the place.
I didn't actually know that until about a year ago, and he told me, and I was like, what? He's like, oh, yeah, I was like one of the guys who helped them develop that speaker. I'm like, well, aren't you special?
For me, I'm a headphone producer. That I have these, and it's not necessarily the most logical approach, but I'm of the, if I can have one decent pair of headphones I can take literally everywhere, I'm happy. So these ones, they're actually Bluetooth headphones, but they take a cable input. So, and they got noise cancelling and everything. And they're not the best headphones ever, but they're accurate enough that I don't mind,
Out of respect for my neighbors, I'm the same way. So,
although you've got your semi-open ones there, so they'll hear a little bit if you're loud enough. Can you imagine trying to play headphones?
I will say open headphones I think are really solid for music producing though, because at least you get the acoustics of the room that you're in. So,
those are fancy looking.
These are the Aventone MP1s. That's Mary
hipster.
Peter one. If you want to look them up, they're heavy.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that they're very heavy. You can't wear them for a long time. That's the only downside to them. But these are some of the best sounding mixing headphones, open back. I absolutely love these things. And I also use regularly and believe firmly in a software called Sound ID Reference, which you can look up. It's not the cheapest shit in the world. I promise you that. It's not very cheap. But it will flatten out almost any set of speakers that's on planet Earth right now. And give you an actual flat response. I'm using them on these. These are Sennheiser HD 280 Pros. They're $99 on Sweetwater. They are not expensive. But I use that Sound ID to flatten these headphones out so I can hear mixes how I should hear mixes, not emphasized by what the speaker manufacturer did with their headphones, you know?
That's solid.
Can we also say fuck Beats while we're at it?
Yep.
Actually, well,
Abs-
from in the past I would have agreed, but their newer headphones are actually all right. Like the newest set.
Oh, they
are-
making better shit now?
Yeah, not only it's really weird. So I've tried the AirPods Pro Max thingy in like the Apple Store or whatever, and I find them really uncomfortable.
dark.
Also, they don't work on anything but iPhones in particular very well. But the new Beats headphones, they're meant to sound all right, and they work fine with everything. It's so weird. Like they're the same company, and yet it got two pairs of headphones, and one is meh, and the other one is actually all right. So
It's I believe that almost all headphone manufacturers out there that are going to make some sort of Bluetooth little earbud style headphones, none of them are going to sound that amazing. Because those people are not going for a flat speaker response. They want to emphasize what you want to hear in your music, which is the reason why Beats became so popular, because they did what's called in the speaker itself, they actually did what's called a smiley face EQ. They boosted the piss out of the low end and they boosted the piss out of the high end, because everybody listening to fucking rap music and shit was like, oh yeah, they sound rad. They sound so good. And then those of us who actually like are trying to mix something and like critically listen to stuff, we're like, why is my whole mix getting swallowed up by my sub right now? What is going on? You know, like, but you have to find the ones that you think sound good and make music sound good that you can also reference your other music that you're working on, you know? Again, that's why I wanted to point out these HD 280 Pros. They don't sound incredibly amazing, but that Sound ID reference actually makes them sound really, really great. So it's a thing.
yes. All right. Next up, we have Energy with Mouse of the Snowstorm. Apparently, it's a classic theme I made over a decade old, not the original. Figured shorter is better. Originally is 8 minutes. It says uploaded 6 years ago, so is this just later? I don't know. Or is this a revision? Do you have SoundCloud Pro? I can't tell anymore. Is that a thing? No. I guess, I don't know. Give us some more context about this, but it's only 3 minutes 20, which I guess is shorter than 8 minutes.
Shout out to Colorado.
And then after this, we've got Arcturus. Sorry for accidentally skipping you. My brain obviously derped on that one, so you're next. And then J Wavy. Thank you very much, everybody. to the cameras. So for me, I don't know. It's so loud all the time. But you have some really interesting pseudo-mechanical noises and things that are really cool, but just so drowned out by everything else. Like, it is actually an interesting tonality to this track. But there's so little contrast that it makes it hard to really focus on anything. How are you feeling, SixSided?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the dynamic difference between the intro and the rest of the track is actually good. That's needed. But the way you executed that jump was really jarring, and I had to like turn it down a little bit because it was hurting my ears just how loud it was. But someone said the composition could use some work, level music, and I completely agree with this. And I actually think your loud problem that you have is not a loudness problem, it's a composition problem, because the way you voice your different instruments and the way I guess the different timbres that the instruments have, or the synths or whatever, the way they present themselves, which octave you play them at, that all has a big role in creating loudness. If you think of like an orchestra or a marching band or something like that, for example, you have the trumpets, which have these really bright overtones, and you can hear them over the top of everything else in the band. And as a result, trumpets don't have to play loud to be heard. This is something I can hear in your music, is you have some elements in your track that do not need to be loud for them to be heard, specifically your lead. So you could always lower the volume of stuff that has really bright overtones that exists in the high end, because that will be heard regardless. As long as you have a solid foundation with your lows, you can let stuff breathe and live up in those higher frequencies without hurting your listeners' ears by keeping everything really loud. Some good things, I really like the little details and little spaces you give your leads to breathe in, and you let stuff ring out a couple times, and I thought that was really cool. I always like when people do that. But yeah, my big takeaway, I think your loudness issue is more of a composition thing than anything, but it's my 2 cents.
I actually couldn't agree more. I think he covered just about everything that I was going to say as far as composition and stuff. Competition. See, we can all speak English here, I swear. No, I felt like the loudness wasn't definitely wasn't a volume thing to me. I didn't actually reach over and turn my headphones down or anything, but there was some harshness to it for sure. A little bit more on the top end. Isotope makes a really cool plugin. What is that damn thing called? Shit. I always forget the name of it. I'll have to look it up when we're doing the next one, and I'll post it in the chat.
There you go. Ozone Nectar, Neutron.
It's a standalone. Oh, why can't I think of it? I'll look it up. I'll figure it out. But anyway, they make a thing that will actually... No. It's tonal balance. Isotope's tonal balance. And it'll actually give you a readout. You put it on your master bus, it'll give you an idea of what your overall song's looking like from an EQ spectrum. So if it's got too much top end, like SixSided was talking about, it'll actually show it to you like kind of poking out of this little area. It's really, really, really freaking handy. I use it all the time. So go to my notes. I think your drum mix was actually solid. I felt like all the drums felt like they were in a really good space together. They didn't feel separated to me. The only thing I think is that you could use a little more punch in those drums. Look at 200 on the snare-ish, that realm. See where your snare is kind of popping up in that lower realm. Again, look at that, around 100-ish in the kick drum, and try to get me just a little bit more punchiness. It's the only way I can describe it. Someone said in the chat, man, I wish that part went a little bit longer, and they were talking about the darker drop section, and I 100% agree. I was really vibing out to that, and then you brought the synth back in, and then you went back to it, and I was like, man, You should have just made that darker part twice as long and brought the synth part in after that. Like it was, that vibe was super rad on that part. And then, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because this is just me. There's a pause in this song that almost goes dead silent, and for a second there, you thought the song was gonna end, and then you brought it back in. Let me throw an idea out at you. Switch that to a drum and bass beat, and just tell me what it does for you. Just double the tempo, because I think that, in my opinion, personally, people would just be like, "Whoa!" Like no one would expect that. Especially coming from like a more down, like dubstep kind of vibe. But man, I'm telling you, just try it. See what it feels like. Because I think it would just throw people and it would be a really awesome, like really fucking cool. So yeah, those are overall, I think that was overall. Everybody else kind of covered everything else I was thinking about, but that's all like my side notes that they didn't cover.
Well, I think that's pretty thorough. You're getting a bit clicky again. Do you want to reload the next track?
Someone sample my voice. It's very distorted. I'll reload.
Is the theme memorable? Yes. I think your overall melody is hooky enough. It's just about dynamics and contrast.
It is. I think other stuff takes away from it. But that's not an issue with the melody itself and the theme.
Yay.
Hey, we're back. Brilliant. Next up, we have Arcturus with Ghosts, aka 2 out of 10 in the chat there. Feedback on anything, really. I'm quite new to producing, so my stuff will probably sound more amateur than other submissions, but happy to have feedback, even if it's just on basic stuff to improve on. It's some sort of weird CPU overload issue. It's kind of strange. Not sure entirely what with that one, but it's not. Tonight's just been one of those nights. Like I still don't know why we're only streaming at 600 kilobits on the video, but you know, can't have everything perfect, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, let's see if we can offer some words of encouragement to Arcturus. So rather than skip through it, I think what we'll do, since we seem to always have quite extensive feedback, is talk over it a bit. Oh, there's some new little ARPs there. So this is always meant to be sort of some kind of progressive track. I think it's got the right idea. Like, you say, oh, you need to produce it, but I think there's nothing particularly wrong with what you're trying to do here. It's just a matter of needing some finesse, I think, in terms of things like automating your filter cutoffs and adding a little bit more of a dynamic arrangement in your drum work or something like that. And I'm going to pass it over to Unity of Noise. You can go first this time.
So, I wrote down right away. I love your chord choices there. It has a very pop feel to it. Very nice sounding chords. They just gave you like a great vibe right off the bat. As far as repetitiveness, I could literally nail this down for you in one sound. You've got that main chord sound that comes in, that main synth, and it just never stops. That's what's creating your repetitiveness. You can add as many elements as you want on top of that, but if you're never taking that in and out or filtering it or, you know, doing something with it, it's going to make it just feel like it just never, ever ends. I will say overall, though, since you talked about being early as a producer, you are 100% on the right track, though. I felt like the track overall, the vibe was good. Like, I think your levels as far as the mix are solid right now. There's nothing that's really jumping out at you. You had nice spatial elements coming in, nice mono elements coming in. I mean, in my opinion, like for an early producer, you are on the right track. Like, don't quit. Keep going. Just keep learning and keep going. You've definitely got the right vibe. If I can give you a small piece of advice, you want to know if something feels long? Go get your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife. I don't care who it is, your best friend. Go get that person, stand them in the room with you, and play the song while you're sitting there. You will immediately know if there's song is too long, if there's elements that sound weird, because you literally will listen to it from a different perspective by having someone just listen to it alongside of you, exactly what we are doing right now. You immediately start hearing stuff. So I can't tell you how often I grab my wife and I'm like, babe, come here, just come listen to this. And I immediately start writing notes down of all the things I need to change in my song immediately. So just try doing that a little more often. It'll help push your song a little farther, a little faster.
Completely agree with everything you said. I'm always scared to have my significant other, my girlfriend, listen to my music, but that's fine. I'm gonna
the best thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo what Unity said about the chords, and I think the reason that this is solid choice of chords is because it's a quote. This is a chord progression that already exists in similar progressive songs. And it's something that's proven that works well, and it gives off a clear emotion that you can build off of. I think not only is that something just in general good to do in music, but especially as you're starting out, it gives you a really easy stepping stone to explore your creative process. So big up on that. Well, so you have some distortion at the intro on your synth sounds. And just going back on the previous feedback that we gave, you do not need a lot of distortion because a little bit of high end goes a long way. I really like how you have some sounds that kind of bloom and get really wide and then shrink back down. It causes the track to have some evolution. Like I said, it's a perfect way to expand on the emotion that the chords you chose create is by sounds that bloom up. Really good stuff. I enjoyed it.
They're saying in the chat, my wife hates a lot of my stuff, LMAO. And, well, you can't win them all, but at least you won her on everything else.
Yes.
I think for this as well, it might be worth referencing a few tracks, especially the sort of cinematic, constant build-up type of tracks. But it's not chill steppy, but I'd look at some of M83's work. Things like Graveyard Girl, the intro and outro to Hurry Up We're Dreaming. Like, they're these tracks that have these constant what's the name of the song? It's from DSV2. First, it's something, I can't remember the title of it now. It's one of the lead singles for the Digital Shades Volume 2 anyway. It's another one of those has constant build-up kind of tracks. It's like that's the kind of cinematic vibe I think you're going for, but with just a different type of sound palette. And it's not a bad thing to riff a little bit on how other people are handling their transitions and other kinds of stuff. Especially when you're learning, like it's okay to take the more direct inspiration from your.
I used to back in the day. I used to literally grab tracks. And when digital was a thing, I'm not talking about the analog days, but when I was really getting into electronic music, I used to literally just grab tracks and drag them into my DAW, and I would just literally copy their exact progressions. That's just all I would. I'm using my own songs or sounds. I'm using my own samples. I'm using all my own shit. So I'm not copying their song. But if there was a section where they dropped out and did a build up, I would do my dropout build up right there. And the reason why I did that for so many years and why I tell people to do that is because you can learn how to create a better vibe with your overall tracks by doing that. It's completely okay. Take inspiration. There's nothing wrong with that, Just don't copy exactly what they're doing as far as like, don't copy their leads and their chord progressions. Don't copy all that stuff, but you can copy their song structure. What's really funny is that 99% of songs have the same exact fucking structure. When it comes to like, whatever, pop music, pop EDM, stuff like that, whatever. So something to think about doing.
Don't fix it.
That's what I'm saying.
Imitation is such a good way to learn.
Mm-hmm. Could not agree more.
I really need to do some more cover songs, I think, just for the sake of education, because you never stop learning. Like, you can be I'm playing for a decade in production, and there are still things I don't know how to do. It's just you can't learn it all immediately. It's impossible.
Nope. Hey, just a heads up, I got about 15 minutes before I gotta go take care of my dog who just had ACL surgery again.
Poor doggo.
I got like. Yeah, he's fine. He's doing good, but we're in day 2, so there's a lot that goes on in the first month of taking care of him and making sure that he's good.
Will you be gone long, or is that you wanted to finish the stream, or like what you thinking?
Yeah, that would be me bouncing, because at that point in time, I got to leave about a half hour after that. I got to leave the house, so
that's okay. That's fine. We will get through a couple more songs as fast as we can then, and make most of you while you're still here, and then me and SixSided will finish off the stream together. Where do you get the fireworks?
Oh, I forget that my camera does that. Welcome to the world of Apple computers. I totally forget that my camera does that now.
That's wonderful.
I need that. Love it.
I think there's a bunch of them now. There's a whole bunch of hand gestures you can do. I think this one just does. I don't know. I feel like this one just does like bubbles of thumbs up or something. There's a whole bunch of them now.
Yeah,
there we go. There we go.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Next up, we got
Wonderful.
Losing My Mind by Jay Wavy, or Wavy. I would really love to know what more I could add to the track and just have general feedback on how it sounds as well. I know it's probably not the best compared to some of the other tracks. Everyone, stop doing this. Stop doing this. You're all great. You're making cool music. You're making your music. Stop with the whole I'm less good than everyone else. Anyway, but thank you for taking the time to listen, and we are listening to it. So here we go.
Been falling for you knee deep. I'm losing my mind, but you don't wanna see me. You're playing for time. Been falling for you knee deep. I'm losing my mind, but you don't wanna see me. You're playing for time. I'm losing my mind. 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 I'm losing my mind mind. I'm losing my mind.
I was very, very happy that one.
I really liked it.
Same here.
I would like to see more depth to those super souls, because right now they're very in the middle, and I feel like this is sort of, it'd be benefit from probably going a bit more Euro, a little bit closer to something like harsher in the like upper frequency spectrum of your super souls, a little bit wider, like you're trying to be big and festival, and it's a kind of a mix of things that make a track successful in that context. I think your overall composition is fine. It's not too long. Nothing sticks around for too long, so that's good. The vocal line is quite catchy, although it could be a little bit less dry than it is now. Like there's some reverb going around with everything else, but the vocal itself is still sort of dry. And I don't know whether it's just about making more space in the mix or just pacing, like you're changing the pacing of your bass and your drum positioning a little bit, because your kick is kind of drowned out, and that clap is also, or clicky sound is also kind of drowned out. But I'm going to hand it over to Unity there to give some thoughts.
So, great start. I'm just going to read my notes real quick. Great start. And I said, man, really great intro, really, really great sounds. Amazing pop EDM vibes. I really, really was feeling this, like, as it was going. I really like where the vocal came in, stylistically, everything you were doing. Overall, I think the thing that Nathan brought up with the synths, adding another note in there on the lower end, giving it some more just kind of like weight to the synths is a big thing. Going for those sevenths, ninths chords even. And then let me give you a small tip in that buildup. The transition between where the vocals kind of, I'm losing my mind, and then it kind of kicked out, and then the song came in and dropped. You could easily make that bigger by just taking your synths and having them slowly go more mono, right? In the mix, just have them slowly go more mono. Even if it's down to like our 25% mono, not completely mono, but just down to 25%. And then when the drop hits, automate that shit to go back super wide stereo. And it'll give that drop like a much bigger feel. Like it'll just have so much bigger of a drop feel to it. But overall, like, I felt like the whole direction of the track was great. I feel like it was just like, to me, it was like, okay, like this is a person that's on the right direction. They just need to learn like a couple of tricks that make these things pop a little bit more. My only other feedback, either drop the snaps and add a clap, or just add a clap over the top of the snaps, at least for the drop section. It just felt like that snare area needed more. The snaps just weren't enough. Like it needed to have a bigger like feel to it, wherever you got six people like clapping together, and you just got that huge EDM like festival vibe going on. So that's my overall though.
SixSided.
Yeah, I automate, stereo separation a lot. I think that's a really good technique to create tension and release. Kind of push everything, squeeze everything into as small space as possible, and then let it explode out is how I think of it.
Yep.
I enjoyed the melody. Once again, I feel like it's not something completely unique, but it's something that, you can catch on the emotion really easily, something that's proven. And it's really solid, catchy melody. Enjoyed it. Personally, I thought it sounded a bit fuzzy, like the highs were boosted or something. It might just be my headphones. I'm not sure. But that was something that stuck out to me, so maybe it's worth your attention. Just a little idea. I felt like you could have a little bit more percussive elements in general, especially on your build-ups. And then when I was writing that note, I also was hearing the piano in the background, and I was thinking, like, the sound a piano makes, the attack has a very interesting timbre, and that's the piano in your track. You can't hear the attack of it. You can only hear like the fundamental tone it makes. So if you can, I throw a transient processor on like all my instruments that I want to hear the attacks on. It's probably not best practice, but I like to grab as much of the attack on anything interesting as possible. I do it for pianos or like really clicky drums or something. And
Sometimes
I try
that
to
with a
boost it, so-
piano sound, like sometimes it can just be the plugin that you're using will give you the ability to go in and
Yeah.
like heighten the attack on the piano. It just depends on the plugin that you're using. But a transient designer is also a good way to get that exactly what he's doing is a great way to do it as well.
Yeah, if you think about it, a piano is literally a percussion instrument, and you might as well keep that percussive element of the piano in, especially in a festival song where the piano is keeping the syncopation going. And just for the future, I do this a lot for guitar, like strings and stuff, because they also have a very interesting like pluck to them. So keep that in mind as you continue your stuff. But that's what I got.
Thank you very much. Do you have enough time for one more quick 1.5-minute song, Unity? Or
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is this gonna
Let's
be the last
go.
one then? Yep. Short wit. Any wit feedback appreciated. This is grade something. Wow, that was absolutely pretty AF. I love that.
Go ahead. Go ahead, SixSided. You go first.
Okay, so this is, I mean, I'll combine the last feedback. I think this is a perfect example on how you can utilize and leverage the attacks and the transients of everything to add texture to your track and give it all these details. Everything was just so, yeah, it was clean. You could tell everything that's happening and added to the texture. Solid. Little details are amazing. I love when all that stuff is added. So, my only criticism I could find is sometimes stuff would duck under the kick a little bit harshly, and it took away from the smoothness of your track. And that's kind of nitpicky though. I don't really think that's a huge issue, but I noticed it, so it might be worth checking it out. That's what I got.
Go ahead, Nathan.
I just want more song.
Yeah, that
I really
too.
love this one. I really do enjoy this one. Like, I don't know. I was actually really vibing out to this one, so it's hard for me to pick out really major mixing things because I was just like, oh yes. This is right in my ballpark. Things I'd actually listen to.
Yeah, I immediately fell into that one. I, being a drummer, love broken beats. Bonehead had pointed out that it was hard for him to figure out what the time signature was, and I pointed out that it's still 4/4. But to make that point, Bonehead, it could have fallen into 6/8 too. So 6/8 will revolve into 4/4, no problem. And with that type of beat, you could definitely revolve 6/8. Over that, the rest of the chords and everything seemed like they were kind of falling on a pretty steady tempo. So it just kind of depends on what they were really going for. My thing with that, I only had one thing, okay? Really? I got crunchy again. Am I crunchy again?
Yeah.
Damn it! Does it sound horrible, or can I just finish, or should I reset?
we can we could understand you, so.
Okay. So my only thing is you had that beat. I love that beat, but there was ka-doon, bat-doon, and you had like a double kick on the end of one of the off-tempo snares, right? And this is just a personal preference, I would take the second kick off of there. There's something about that beat that when you take the second kick out off that second snare drum that comes in a little early, take the second kick out, it leads your body to actually have more of the feel than forcing your body to kind of fall into this what I want you to feel. Like, you're not forcing us to feel this beat. I'm going to leave this kick out so your body kind of like feels that second kick without it even being there. 12/8 time signature, 6/8 time signature, same thing. So yes. Other than that, though, like, I'm telling you exactly what Nathan said. I want more. I can't say that enough. Double the length of that shit. That was such a cool song. I was vibing from second one. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Just double the length of it. Give us more. We need more of that song. Please. I'm begging you. Before I go, because I do have to bounce out early, I'm really sorry. I totally forgot about my day and kind of didn't plan for something to happen today. So I wanted to just say to everybody in the stream, first of all, Nathan, as always, thank you so much for having me. SixSided, it was great to meet you, man. I hope we can link up and do some, talk some more.
Likewise.
Everybody in the stream, I can't stress on you enough how important it is. Share your music. Please show it to your friends. Show it to your parents. Show it to your brother, sister, whoever. You will never, you never really go anywhere if you just constantly keep your music on your computer and don't show it to the world, okay? This is your art. It deserves to be out there. As bad or as good as you think it is, it doesn't matter. It's your art. Share it with everyone. Put it out there for people to listen to. It's the only way for all of us to progress and get better at what we love doing. It's just art. It's your own art.
Very wise robot. Very wise.
Yes.
Say you are a robot.
Yes, I'm a robot. Am I very much a robot? Do I sound like a robot?
A little
Yeah.
I am a robot. This is a robot stream. I am a robot.
bit. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope your doggo gets better soon.
It'll be great. Once again, guys, thank you all for having me. I'm on Instagram, Unity of Noise. I'm on Twitch. Like I said, I stream Unity of Noise. So if you guys want to come check out my stuff, feel free to come and follow me. SoundCloud, obviously. I'm rebranding all of my stuff right now. It's a long story. It will be for another time. But we can have a discussion about that sometime, Nathan, if you ever want to.
That sounds fun.
Thank you guys again.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet
Have a
you.
good one. Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Will it work, or is it the same? I guess.
Yeah, now we have an empty square.
Yeah, the problem is I rebuilt my stream layouts, but I didn't build one
For-
for two people.
Oh, wonderful.
It's fine. I'm sure it's fine for now. Next we have Ganja Mix. If this'll work, come on. Why is Google Sheets? Come on. He's looking for general feedback and arrangement tips. So everyone in the comments, please give your best listen to the arrangement and make wise suggestions. Oh no, advert. I'm going to have to talk through an advert. Oh no. SoundCloud adverts evil.
Little improv never hurt anyone.
Hey! Well, I garble most people's names, so count yourself lucky. It's the problem, I don't know. It's just a meme at this point as well, I expect. It's not your bad. It's my bad. So that was a short thing. Oh no, Walk, go away. No, stop. I felt that it was a bit piercing what you have there so far. The high end is really exaggerated, and that makes it almost a little bit difficult to listen to. So maybe have a look through a visualizer. I expect that's probably the best way to sort of self-demonstrate to yourself. If you're not hearing it so far with that really pitchy stuff, it just needs to be a little bit gentler in how you're handling it. There's nothing wrong with high frequencies and having some air in your track, but too much and you end up with ear fatigue. So be careful as well for your own safety and sanity. SixSided arrangement suggestions.
Yeah, so I only took notes on arrangement, but first of all, I'll say I'll agree it was a bit piercing. But anyways, arrangement. I think the goal of a successful arrangement is that your elements of your track are interacting with each other, and each element is invoking change in every other element. It's like having a conversation with someone else. You need all these parts to interact with each other, and everything has to contribute. Same thing with arrangements in music. You want to think of it like a conversation, maybe not necessarily it's back and forth, but it's an exchange almost. Things are going to happen which cause impact and change on other things. This is why people sidechain. That's could be considered an arrangement tip as well as a mixing tip. Sidechaining is invoking a volume change, but regardless, those are my thoughts and opinions on arrangement, and I think you did that pretty well in your piece. Barring all other advice that I could give you, I think the arrangement, you had these different elements that were interacting with each other. You had instruments that were following another one. You gave other instruments space. Like I said, sidechain is a mixing technique, but it's also artistic and it can fall into arrangement technique as well. So I'd say this sounds like you're still working on this. It's a work in progress. I might be wrong, but just keep these like big concepts in mind when you're working on it. And I think your arrangement will be solid. It already is solid. And I think the bigger issue is just what Nathan said. It's a bit piercing. You need to clean up some of the frequencies a little bit. But those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think with the whole thing, there's sidechain. You can sidechain anything with anything else. So if you ever want a point where something cuts in and nudges something else out of the way, use a sidechain compressor. If you wanted so things sound at the same time as something else, you use a gate. Or if they reach a certain level of volume and intensity, then you can use a gate. That's you can do things both to that. So it's really a case of, you don't worry about the sidechain itself, but just think about what you think is more important at any one moment in your track. And then you can create a dynamic compression response that triggers that. But I'd be very interested to have you submit that track again when you fleshed it out a bit more. Just across the actual whole, you've got the whole song there. So maybe just go in as quick and dirty as you can and get that arrangement down that you actually have it go somewhere and resolve. Because what you have is interesting so far. But I personally never worry about mixed down stuff until I have the song actually all together. So, send it back in again when you got more to it, I think. And I'd be very interested to hear that and hear where you go with it. Next up, 4:30, very specific. Next up, we have Annie with the sweetest smiles. The comment here is, "Hi, hey, got so many cool samples, made a track that I liked. Would be happy to know your feedback on it. And hey, Six, good to see you." Hey, the sweetest smiles by Annie. I agree with Bonehead Bangers here. Drums be super old schoolish, but the synths feel very modern, and it'll take a lot of effort to blend the two. So, I think the sound design is actually very interesting, but a lot of it will be in the post-processing. Like, running things, maybe you start thinking about running things through an amp simulator or something like that sounds a little bit grittier, a little more real, analog. And you might then, then it's almost like you're pulling out this old sample from somewhere, even though it's new and original. That's kind of the vibe I think that you might be worth exploring. Why does this go keep covering up the chat?
He did say it was pretty sample based, I believe.
Yeah, well, I kind of want it to sound a bit more like it's actually like chopped and screwed and weird and
yeah,
like you've dug them out of some old vinyl collection rather than splice. That's kind of where my head is at with that.
I can agree with that. I think there's ways you could really capitalize on the good moments of this track and leverage it, so that way you can apply it to the rest of the track. I think when you have that sweeping bass coming in and the drums, it's kind of bouncy. It's extremely groovy, and I was just sitting here like dancing in my seat. But that's something that you could leverage throughout the entire track as well, by just doing a little bit more processing on those samples. I think that's what Nathan's getting at. That's for sure what I'm getting at, though. So,
no, you're I think we're on the same page with this one.
I think the transitions, there was a couple times where you really need to lead in or trail out, sections of your track. I get that's hard to do with sample-based things, though, but I think it needs to happen at some points. So.
Volume shaping, I think, is the key one to play about with there.
That's a solid idea. Just a nitpick harmony. When the harmony came in the middle, I think it was sticking out of the mix a little bit. But like I said, that's just, you need to tweak it and spend some quality time trying to make sure everything blends together. And I always say 90% of the work is spent on the last 10% of the project. So.
That's a pretty common art refrain.
Yeah.
Any further thoughts? I think that's enough to go on with, I think.
Yep.
Next up, we have Cade Frost, who's got a class shortly, so we'll be as quick as we can play this and give our feedback. Feedback on the instrumental production rather than the quality of the vocal sample. First EDM song I've completed. May have to leave for class soon, so apologies not around. But you are going to be around because we're going to do it now for the first time by Cade Frost.
Walking the streets with our eyes half closed. Oh, thinking I knew there was all to know. Oh, and now I'm seeing things I never seen before. And I'm feeling all these feelings. I'm ready for more. And now I'm seeing things I never seen before. And I'm feeling all these feelings. I'm ready for more. It's like I open my eyes for the first time. Ooh, it's like I open my eyes for the first time. It's like I open my eyes for the first time. It's like I open my eyes for the first time. For the first time. For the first time. For the first time. Change of heart, it's a change of mind. Whoa, we're Erasing all my stress, leaving fears behind. Whoa. And now I'm seeing things I've never seen before. No, feeling all these feelings, I'm ready for more. And now I'm seeing things I've never seen before. No, feeling all these feelings, I'm ready for more. It's like I open my eyes for the first time. It's like I open my eyes for the first time. For the first time. For the first time. For the first time.
So I agree with the comments about the key on the track. It's definitely a little bit off in that regard. Like you got your bass doing dun 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 dun, and then your vocal is for the first time. But if you were really gonna match the key, you'd either pull it up higher or you'd like pull it down lower, so it's actually in the same note as your bass. Because right now it's not. There's definitely a dissonance there. So you might be better off going. So if it's going do 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 for the first time, boom 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 for the first time. The other thing as well is in terms of arrangement. Like if you're going to use a vocal sample of this, it's effectively either your call or your response in your arrangement. Like you know, so it might be dun 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 for the first time dun 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 dun, or it's for the first time dun 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 dun. You know, like that's kind of the place that I'm thinking in terms of how you might actually resolve the two things being in the same place. Is you obviously don't have them literally in the same place in the arrangement. Unity suggesting just raising the bass note, which that would probably be easier. That's definitely a good point. Well made. SixSided. Sorry, I forgot Unity. You're in the chat, but you're not. Confusing me.
Yeah, I agree with the arrangement thing that you were talking about, because it goes back to a couple songs ago where I mentioned arrangement is it's like an interaction, a conversation between all the different elements in your track. So the call and response on your vocals, that's a huge thing. Goes a long ways. Giving stuff space to breathe and reset and have another go at whatever it's doing is another concept you could employ as well. The thing I noticed that was huge was the lead bass and the drop was pretty much filling up the entire frequency spectrum, and it wasn't giving any space to other things in your track. You did duck it or sidechain it or completely cut it out when you played other things, but I think it ate up all the atmosphere, and it's like you were shoving something into a box that it's too big for, and then you took it back out and had the other things play around in it, and then you took that thing and shoved it back into the box for the rest of the drop. That was the big thing I noticed. And just another conceptual thing is like, I think music is pretty intuitive. So when you're doing stuff like that, like taking stuff, shoving it in things, and then taking it back out, that's not okay in real life, and that's also like it has the same jarring effect in music as well, if that makes any sense to you. But that's how I think about that type of stuff. But
yeah, I think the overall it wasn't really inherently a mixing problem, is it? Like.
Yeah, almost not. It was, yeah.
Mixing is everything, obviously, but it's like you can make mixing easier on yourself by choosing things earlier in the process that fit together a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're going to submit something that's an instrumental, say don't focus on the vocals. Don't make the vocals so present. Oh, it makes it hard to dissect sometimes whether everything else is actually working properly.
Yep.
But a good like the bits that worked in it really do work. You are getting there. I think it's gonna be a really cool track when you actually tighten it up. So next up we have they're in the chat as Midnight Vibes, also known as Urain. So this is Simulated Journey, and they're just looking for any feedbacks, any kind of feedbacks. Thank you very much for everyone for your submissions tonight. We've only got a couple more tracks left, and it's been almost 3 hours, so I definitely need to eat. I don't know about you. So we've got Urain, Level Music, and Jack Spade. So Jack Spade will be our closing track tonight. Let's go with Simulated Journey by Urain. That was really pretty. I can understand why you have a hard time mixing it, though. It's very, very wide. Like, there is a little bit of mono action going when you have that 808 drum kick coming in. And the snare is a little bit more mono than everything else. But it's so wide that I suspect, like, when Unity's saying he lost distortion on his iPhone 15 there, it's actually an unintended resonance, I think, that's likely building up. And it's the best way. I mean, I'm gonna suggest starting your mix down again, but not explicitly. It's more like start with the stuff you want in the middle first, and work outwards. Like, you need to have more defined levels in your terms of your stereo width. And I can't tell you personally which levels are the appropriate one, because that's a matter of your taste. But also, when you do, you can actually EQ with your stereo in mind. Not only can you EQ reverb, because a lot of reverb plugins allow you to do it, or you can do it in parallel, but also you can think of it psychologically and spatially. The more you roll off the highs and the lows in your sound, the further away it sounds like it is happening. And combine that with stereo panning, and that's what actually builds up the depth in your track. So it's like, yeah, go back through again, but it's go back through with intentionality so that you can make sure that you're building that level of depth that you actually want to have, while reducing the amount of weird phasing. The other thing, and this is probably a bit of a niche one, is look at the type of reverb you were using, and the type of EQs that you're using, and make sure that you're actually using oversampling and not linear phase, because that can create weirdness sometimes, especially with trippier stuff like this, because it can, again, exacerbate things you weren't intending to exacerbate. While if you oversample it, it will hit your CPU more, but hopefully you can always render down bits and pieces as you go along, so it's not so intense if your computer is a bit upset about it. But it increases the accuracy of the cutoffs, so that then it isn't unintentionally creating weirdness. At least that's something I found in my practice as I've been improving with my processing and mixing. So there's a SixSided.
I'd like to expand on what you were saying, because when I do orchestra stuff, it's very important to like figure out like where in the physical space an instrument is playing. Because if you think about an orchestra, like French horns, they're on the right side. The first violins, they're on the left side towards the front. So you have to, not only do you pan an instrument left or right, but also like forward and backward as well. Like if I want something to sound like it's really far away and to the right, like I'll pan it to the right, and I'll pan the dry signal to the right, and then I'll take the wet signal and I'll stereo separate it and make it sound like it's further away by increasing the reverb, and then maybe lower the volume of the dry signal as well. But there's a whole lot of cool things you can do just by processing, the sound and the reverb to making it sound like it's closer, further away in different positions in space. For drums, similar concept. Like you said you had a hard time mixing drums, but you just think about like, what do you hear in real life when someone's playing the drum? Like the bass drum goes right through you. It's a thump. It's centered, goes, fills the room with a thump, basically. It's like punching a table. But if you think about a hi-hat, it sizzles out and it fills the outsides of the room with a sizzling sound, and it goes, in your ears and past your ears. It doesn't go right through you like a thump. So in that case, you would make a cymbal wide, and then you would make a kick drum kind of,
Mono.
close and tight knit together and everything. So my mixing tip: visualize it like it's in real life, and you'll find an intuition for it.
Good advice. Hopefully that was useful feedback there, Midnight Vibes. Next up we have Level Music, who also just wants general feedback. This is Circles Whip. And then we're closing out with Jack Spade. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been Feedback and Friends. We had your noise there on earlier, and we really appreciate him coming on to help host this. And I'm really grateful to you, SixSided, for being able to join us as well. Alicia will be back at some point in the near future. We've got some things planned. So please, if you're not on EDMP server, discord.gg/EDMP. Come hang out with us, talk nonsense with us there. Also, if you got us on the YouTubes, this is where our VODs are recorded, and I know this one's going to be a little bit visually lower quality than I was hoping, but most of them are actually alright, so, follow us there, and maybe we can eventually get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube or something. I don't know whether that's even possible, but we'll find out. So this is Level Music with Circles Whip. Well, I think the term for that is spoopy.
Well done. That was
Spoopy
awesome.
AF. Yeah, like, I agree. Bonehead Banger saying big stank face track. I love it. Though he does have some comments about wanting a little bit more mid-rangey in the bassy stuff and a little bit more high-end wobbiness potentially, but that was still very satisfying.
That was.
And
I'll
he-
say that gave me a very sinister feel, like something bad is going to happen and I have no control over the thing that's going to happen. It was very deep and very heavy, which was, I love that. Also, I really liked how the track was swelling, and it was almost like it was breathing and it was alive, and it gave this very electronic track and organic element, which I think is another amazing thing to do with EDM music. Find ways to let it breathe and live. And you also gave good panning and reverb, giving everything space to live in. The critiques that were given in chat, I agree with. Just fill up a little bit more frequencies, and also I personally think the sub was extremely loud. And you could
I kind
turn
of
it
like
down
the
a little
loud
bit,
sub.
but
I don't know. For me, like,
I
actually
do.
kind of liked it.
It gave me a headache personally, but that might be a personal thing. Like I said, to me, it was really loud, and I've always believed, like, if you wanted to make something like bass boosted, just let people do that themselves. But also, like, this is the style of music to have a loud sub bass. I'll agree with that. So, my 2 cents. I really like it though.
Level saying, and a friend of his saying more glitchy sounds would be cool. It could be good.
Oh, yeah.
And And yeah, I know what it's like to sometimes just crank things like the sub just for the sake of it. I mean, I got a couple of tracks in my archive that are I've personally designed to be speaker destroyers. That was kind of the intention. Ooh, excuse me.
Unity agrees with me.
Well, DSR. I don't know what that means for some reason. I probably do know what it actually is, but like you'll have to clarify the acronym there. So, but yeah, on the whole, I really enjoyed that level. So thank you for your submission, and hopefully whatever Unity's speaking about there is useful. Because so I don't know, I can't parse it. My brain isn't working anymore. Next up, we have our last track of the night. This is Jack Spade with Subtractive. No feedback specific requests given, so anything goes. And thanks again to SixSided and Unity of Noise for joining us tonight. Let's go. Oh, I got unmuted. That would help.
I heard you talking when you're sleeping. I can't stop thinking when you're dreaming. Falling apart is in game. I can't change the way you say I want it 'cause I don't wanna change your eyes and soul. I choose to stay and I know I choose to stay and I know.
I thought that was really interesting, but the weird rapid panning you have going on with the vocals didn't work for me. I feel like that effect isn't bad, but it's just bad on that element to me, personally. I think you should have kept the vocals a little bit more simple. And then when that drop comes along, you got those snappy snares and things. Those would be interesting to put that rapid panning on. To have, because the kick is providing the focus at that point in the middle, and you could go, and that could be really cool. But when it's the vocal, it just makes it harder to understand, and it doesn't sound grounded in anything in particular, while the rest of your track is fairly well defined spatially. At least that's how I feel. SixSided.
I wrote down ear candy, and the rhythmic intricacies keep it very interesting. I think you could actually expand on that a lot more as you go on. But yeah, awesome job on the percussion. Throwback to earlier feedback where I said let the transients of the percussion, create the textures and leverage those parts of the sounds in your track. And you did that perfectly. I think really well done. I think the mix was also pretty clean. I didn't notice any glaring issues. One thing that would be very cool, this is completely subjective, but I think you could take some of the fills off the grid, use 5 tuplets or 7 tuplets, and break up some of the texture, break up some of the expectations of the listener. That's kind of a trendy thing people are doing now in this type of music, especially once they set up expectations of intricate percussion and rhythms like you did in the intro. Those are my opinions. Unity of Noise also said move some of the snare drums onto the 2 or 4. I agree with that. Knowing when the strong beats are, but this is really well done. And honestly, maybe I think melodically, this isn't as interesting. I think this track is carried by the percussion, which is not a bad thing. But if you have something that this is carried by, like just completely lean into it. This is why I'm saying fills off the grid, doing the 5 tuplets, 7 tuplets, something weird like that. I feel like that would bring it up just a little bit more, but subjective. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me, at least, and overall solid effort. I think that's quite a good closing track, actually. Is there anything you'd like to share before we say goodbye, SixSided?
If you guys don't mind, I could share something.
Yeah.
Where do I send it?
Send it to me. Send it me in the video room. There's a chat thing at the bottom.
Ah, okay.
Send me there.
Yeah. What's it? This is a concept for an album that I'm trying to work on that probably won't come out for a year, but I don't know.
Okey-dokey.
Just want to show something that I'm working on and I'm passionate about.
Sounds like a good idea. So this is SixSided. I gotta spell your name right. Alon Idea.
Thanks for taking a listen to that.
That was no notes. That was really good. That was
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Also, I just realized I spent the whole stream with stream labels turned off, so like things like the followers and stuff just weren't up.
Wonderful.
Oh well, never mind. I'll remember next time, or I'll forget something else. But oh, that Unity saying Spanish dancers. I'm thinking this is like an unreleased season of Westworld.
That's fair. This is very Latin heavy, but I am gonna name this. The title is gonna have the word dance in it somewhere, so we're good. Making it where the dance is symbolic for something a little bit more sinister, but I'm hoping to get this track out to 8 minutes or somewhere around there and have it be the centerpiece of an album. So there we go. I'd also use this as a portfolio for soundtracks if I want to get into some studios.
They bloody well better hire you, damn it. And you better send me that concept album when you finished it.
I will. I'm sure I'll be posting stuff throughout, my time working on it. So
thank you very much for that. Some final track there. That was a really good note to end on. Thank you everybody for submissions tonight. It's been really good hanging out with you all. We will be back at some point. I'm not sure precisely when yet. Things get weird over holidays, and we'll be doing more streams around Christmas time, a new year, hopefully. Details pending. SixSided, do you remember the tradition that we have to end the stream with?
We have to sing something.
Good night, but in a deliberately terrible manner. Yes.
All right.
This has been Feedback at Friends. I'm Nathaniel Wyvern. We had Unity of Noise, and this is SixSided joining me for the good night.
Good night.